Hey everyone, I'm Nick, and welcome to the very first live stream for 2024 for Sci Fanatics. Thanks everybody for coming. We've got our usual panel of Star Trek experts to talk everything Star Trek today. We've got a whole bunch of interesting news to get through. Let me start by introducing from the Popcast. Welcome, Brian, along.
Hey, good to be here, Nick. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Brian. From All Access Star Trek podcast from trekmovie.com, we've got Laurie. Welcome, Laurie.
Hello.
And as always, my fellow sci fanatic David is here to chat Star Trek with us. Welcome along, David.
Nice to be here, and first show for 2024. So, hey.
Yes.
Bring it on.
Got a lot of cool stuff to chat about today. We're going to go through our general thoughts, what we're thinking about Star Trek Discovery Season 5 so far, those first 3 episodes before we had on air. We've got a bit of Star Trek news to talk about, and Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, Section 31, Star Trek Academy, heaps of Star Trek stuff to talk about today. So we'll get straight into that. So the first bit of news I want to talk about is the latest announcement that Star Trek Strange New Worlds is renewed for a fourth season, which is great news. That's great. However, the other piece of news we have that goes alongside that is that Lower Decks will be cancelled after the end of its 5th season. What do you guys think about this news? Who wants to kick us off?
Lower Decks is my favorite one so far.
Yeah,
I love Lower Decks. I'm going to be really sad to see it go. And it was also strange to announce those things hand in hand.
Right, yeah, it sort of seemed like, hey, like this is good, but this is bad. Like,
right.
Right.
And it's way cheaper to make Lower Decks, so I'm not sure why you would even cancel it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it kind of felt like I sort of felt like the writing might have been on the wall a little bit with Mike McMahon kind of came out, I think it was at the end of the last season, and he kind of said, "Oh, guys, like, we need everybody to come and watch the show a bit more." And there was always sort of like a little bit of an air of desperation about some of his social media posts and everything, which sort of led you to kind of think this show seems like it might be potentially a little, numbered, and that actually seems to be the case.
Yeah, I think because the other renewals came earlier for them, but maybe 5 years is the new 7 in the world of Star Trek. 5 seasons.
And where's that peak period? So I guess you want to sort of, as the shelf life starts to descend or decline, you want to probably go, let's go out when it's on a high note rather than sort of let it, go to the real end of its shelf life and us remember, in perhaps a not so good way, I guess, in the last seasons. But I think 5's a pretty good number. We got a good. I think there's probably plenty of material to go through for another few seasons. Yeah. But I think maybe it's better to end it on a high than let it go.
I just wish they would end shows seasons on an even number. So when I put my physical media on the wall, it actually fits properly. That's all I'm saying.
That's all we need.
Yeah. The announcement that I'll read out the announcement from Paramount CBS or whatever. For Strange New Worlds, they said, on behalf of the cast and crew of Strange New Worlds, we are thrilled and grateful to continue our voyages together. We can't wait for you to join us and the crew of the Enterprise on another season of exploration and adventure from Akiva Goldsman, Henry Alonso Myers, and Alex Kurtzman. And then obviously alongside that, we've got the announcement about Lower Decks, which unfortunately says, to the fans, we wanted to let you know that this fall will be the 5th and final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. While 5 seasons of any series these days seems like a miracle, it's no exaggeration to say that every second we've spent making this show has been a dream come true. Our incredible cast, crew, and artists have given you everything they have because they love the characters they play. They love the world we've built. And more than anything, we love Star Trek. And we're excited for the world to see our hilarious 5th season, which we're working on right now. And the good news is that all previous episodes will remain on Paramount Plus, so there is still so much to look forward to. We celebrate the Cerritos crew with a big send-off. Finally, thank you for always being so creative and joyful, for filling convention halls and chatting Lower Decks. We remain hopeful that even beyond Season 5, Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, Rutherford, and the whole Cerritos crew will live on with new adventures. Live long and prosper, Mike McMahon and Alex Kurtzman. yeah, bit of sweet. But yeah, look, hopefully we'll get a cracking season 5 to give the show a good send off.
I wonder if it'll end up with Space Koala maybe going up to there in that celestial plane at the very end. Who knows?
We finally get to see what's really up there.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to see this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they keep saying they hope the adventures will continue in some way, and I'm wondering if they're talking about all these streaming movies that they want to make, so they could do Lower Decks movies every once in a while.
Absolutely, and I think
I suppose
it would be remiss as well. We've had, I know there was some glimmer of talk from Alex Kurtzman at a convention or something, made some hint that considering the live action crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks did so well in last season of Strange New Worlds, whether another visitation, maybe this time with Rutherford and Tendi, perhaps,
Jonathan Frakes also said that the topic has come up since they wrapped production on Those Old Scientists.
Yeah. I think that's something everybody would like to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I did think this news was coming. I think being a Star Trek content creator, you always get I think a little bit of a test bed in terms of how well shows are doing, based on how many views your videos are getting. Like I remember last year when Picard season 3 was on, and Strange New Worlds season 2 was on. Yeah, views were through the roof. So you can kind of see, people are really into this content. And then Lower Decks comes on and you start reviewing that and talking about that. And it's like, these videos aren't kind of doing as well as the other stuff. Like, so you kind of get a feeling for what the community out there is into and what they're not into. So, yeah.
Right.
I
guess
don't
that
know if we
animation
noticed the same-
space.
Sorry.
Sorry, you go, Laurie.
I don't know if we noticed the same trend with ours. I'll look at our traffic. Like it did shoot up a lot during Picard season 3 for sure. Like significant jump. And then it started popping again now that Discovery's back.
Yep.
I was just going to say, animation's always been probably a little bit of a harder sell sometimes, I guess, with the perception that some people, some fans have, where it's kind of, it's kids, but obviously it's clearly not. We know that, but that perhaps, influences the numbers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I always tend to find the live action content does a lot better than the animated stuff. I think the animation doesn't do terribly, but the live action always does better.
Oh, hang on. Correction, Nick. What about the recent Star Trek shorts? Terribly is not a word that adequately describes that.
True.
I'm still in therapy over some of those episodes.
Yes.
Well, and the whole idea of celebrating Star Trek animation, and that was like not that long after Prodigy had been pulled, and now Lower Decks is going. So it was and it also didn't really celebrate it that much. So it's strange.
Yes,
choice.
It was a strange choice.
Celebrate, yeah.
Right.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so obviously, most recently, we've had the fifth and final season of Star Trek Discovery hit our TV screens. So let's have a bit of a chat about the first 3 episodes of how we're all liking Disco 5. Obviously, a few weeks back we had the first episode. What did you guys generally think of how the season kicked off? How it started? Were you guys into the first episode? How do you think it rated compared with, say, previous starts of prior seasons of Disco? Who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick it off real quick.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm not like a new Star Trek hater. I just don't really like Discovery, and I made it pretty clear that I don't like Discovery. It's a very emotional show. A lot of the logic doesn't seem to work a lot for me most of the time. That said, this season is actually the best Discovery, in my opinion, in the entire run. But the first episode did start out rough for me. When Burnham got sucked out into space and the Iron Man armor formed around her. And then she did that cool shot where she flies through the rubble and mags to this back of a ship that goes to warp. All of that I was having a real hard time with. And then the argument between her and Rayner about tractoring the vessel was just killing me the entire time. That was the worst for that episode. The rest of it was fine, but that was.
Yeah, I did think it was the strongest season opener we've had for Discovery.
Yeah.
But yes, there were definitely a few moments where you probably had to just stretch your suspension of disbelief just that maybe a little bit further.
Right.
Just okay, like and we'll get to a particular moment I'm talking about shortly. Laurie and David, what do you guys think? What did you guys think?
I think like it's first of all, they are very good at season openers. Like I thought the season 3 opener was phenomenal, like just a great piece of television. So they do sometimes get that right, but I think they're off to a really good start in what they've basically done with that opening episode. And they did do with that opening silly sequence was just tell everyone reset your dial, like your usual Discovery dial is going to be different now, and they're trying to show that it's a different, like the reason they open up the mystery box right away in the first episode is like we're literally not going to do mystery box, like here's it's open. And I thought it was fun.
Well, they are going to do mystery box.
Well, they are definitely doing
physical,
mystery box.
a physical mystery, an actual physical mystery box.
Right, but they
Yeah.
opened it up. Right,
Yes,
that's the
yes,
point. Is
yes.
they didn't say someone's got it, we can't see what's inside it. So they're resetting the tone. I think there are certain Discoveryisms that they do a lot, and I feel like they're already this season trying to do fewer of those,
Which is good.
which is really good. Like they realized, okay, we shouldn't stop all the action every time someone has a conversation, and they're picking up the pace and doing all of that. I struggle with the magic technology.
Yeah.
Like you
Yes.
just
Yeah.
have
I don't
to.
know if we're talking about the end yet, but that magic technology where it's like, whoomp, you're like,
Yeah.
There's a lot of magic technology that
Yeah.
you're like, how come it works here and not and whatever.
right.
But
right.
I will say I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
Well,
David?
it does get a little worse and then a little better from what I've seen so far. So
Okay. David?
Yeah, look, I thought it was a strong season opener. I must admit, I probably got into a little bit more on the second episode, which is probably, I guess, a little bit maybe different for different people. But like you, Brian, I found the beginning sequence. I'm going, oh, Burnham's at it again. But it was, I guess, setting up for that Indiana Jones feel, right onto the seat of your pants, and it's kind of like almost like Indiana Jones on top of the train carriages. I guess that sequence with Burnham. That's what I kind of likened it to, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out along a bit of an Indiana Jones track. I don't know whether they'll have some things at the end like the the mystery box going into the Washington storage shed or something, or maybe
Right.
the everyone's face is melting off in front of the Ark of the Covenant. It's
Right.
it's different pace, and I think they've really sort of amped it up, and I'm enjoying it too. And we're probably going to see a lot of world building or world revisiting, and there's also a lot more callbacks and connection to previous track lore, which I'm finding interesting. Lots of excellent references, and I think we kind of called this a few streams back, but the link to the chase. We kind of sort of said this sounds a bit like the chase, and then voila, it is actually linked to the chase.
Yeah, it's the chase. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
hope
think
that the callback. I'm sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think anything Discovery can do to ground itself in link itself to other Star Trek, I think is a good thing, because talking about some of the technology before and everything, it seems it's so distantly in the future that, I think there are certain aspects of Discovery which don't, or it seems like science fiction, but does it actually seem like Star Trek we're familiar with? So I think anything they can do to kind of anchor it to what has come before works well for it, because I kind of my oldest son says with Discovery, he goes, he said, it doesn't feel like Star Trek to him. He sort of said it's so far in the future and everything's so different that it's sort of, it's a sci-fi show, but it doesn't feel as much like a Star Trek show.
No, he's completely right. Yeah, it feels more like it's Star Trek, but it's some other science fiction. I can't really put my finger on it. But you're completely right too, David. The references are great, but the references can't just be references. They need to be tied to the story in some way. We can't do that thing where we're just like, let's introduce a bunch of member berries so that people feel like it's more like Star Trek. It actually has to have Star Trek, as part of it. It can't. The actual references need to somehow tie into the story. Like the thing with the android, I get it. It's like it looks like Brent Spiner, whatever how you say his name, and it has the Alton Soon brand, and it's very much like him. But it's gotta actually, he's gotta play more of a part in this in some way. It can't just be like, well, here's a cool reference. Now we're not going to talk about him the rest of the season.
So, I'm wondering if you think. I think he's going to, and I'm not saying that. I've seen some episodes ahead, but not a lot. I've only seen up to 4. And I haven't seen more with him yet, but I feel like he is. They are gonna they talked about wires and they talked about finding his memories and stuff. So I feel like at some point we're gonna see his head attached to something and he'll start telling us things.
Yeah, that would be cool. What if he has Data's memories? Like, what if this is a way of bringing Data?
Oh no, I don't want that.
Data's an android. So.
I mean, to me, sorry, there's a line with the references, and I feel like this season Discovery is actually right in the right spot for that. Like, I don't need it to be Data, but it's cool to be an android that was kind of that model. And it's like, don't go so far into it that we're not getting new things, new characters, but reference it with some understanding. And they've slipped all kinds of stuff into this one that I thought they've done a surprisingly good job with.
Right, but if he's not connected at all to the past, then like my question is, how does this android even exist that far into the future?
didn't they say in the first episode, I think they said in dialogue that he was created by Alton Soong, the one we saw in Star Trek Picard, played by Brent Spiner. My assumption was that he was perhaps, they had that colony of androids on that, what was that? I can't remember what the planet was called.
I know that started with an S.
Yes, that whole colony in season 1 of Picard, where all those androids living together on like a commune. I'm just assuming he was kind of in the mix there because he was built by Alton Soong. He wasn't a Noonien Soong android. He was one of those other androids that Alton Soong had built in that same Data style model image or whatever.
It's funny because all the other androids that Alton built looked more human.
Yes, maybe maybe he was just.
And had twins, right? Like there was,
right.
Yeah. So that also, I don't know if they're going to follow up on that, but they certainly could.
But I mean, Fred had great hair. I've got to say, he used great hair product, and I noticed these things for obvious reasons. But I think
it's a good pomade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he found it in 1955.
He didn't seem very physically threatening like a Soong android would seem. I mean, they've got super strength, and he was using a gun, and he kind of, I don't know, in his dealings with Mol and Laka, I sort of found that his physical presence wasn't that great. It was kind of like he was relying on the heavies to sort of do a lot of the fighting while he sort of did a bit of pew pew at the end there. So I didn't see a lot of physical threat.
If he's like 900 years old, maybe those parts start to wear down a little bit.
Right, yeah. I kind of found some of his dialogue. I found some of his dialogue a little unusual. Like he was talking about Mol and Lark and the phonetical soundings of their names, and it's like he went off on this rant about the what was it, the vowel sounds or the short form and this softness and simpatico, and it's like, what are you talking about? it just seemed like he just went off on this sort of strange rant, and I'm thinking, is this meant to be some sort of clue to Mol and Lark or something, like, because obviously, even though we're not doing the mystery box premise in the same sense that we have in previous seasons, I kind of feel like there is a bit of a mystery wrapped around Lark, which I think is probably going to be like the mystery box equivalent for this season as to his true identity.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and or maybe he's having like actual like issues with his positronic brain, because if he's from that colony, he's extremely old, right?
Right.
I don't know how long they're supposed to last.
Yeah.
I know Data's brain lasted a long time. If you
Right.
look at Time's
Oh,
Arrow.
well, that's right. Exactly. I was about to say Time's Arrow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing with Discovery that's so hard to tell when you watch is this something that is going to be, is this something or is this not something? And you can't always tell which way it's going to go. And I guess it's kind of fun. Like there were a couple of other things that I was like, oh, I think that's going to come back later. Maybe.
Right.
Lots of red herrings.
That's
Right.
happened before. That's happened before. When I've been doing
Yeah.
reviews for previous seasons, you go, oh, I noticed this. I wonder how that's going to come back later on in the season. And you go, what happened to that? That's like,
Right.
they dropped something and then it just never paid off.
And then other
'Cause
things they really do. So you just don't know. But, I think they're trying to do some world building. I don't think some of the asides might be more than asides, but it's hard to tell. But I'm at least so far enjoying the ride as we get there.
That's good.
And you'll see.
Is it-
I don't know if you guys get episodes ahead, and I won't say anything about it except that episode 4 is my favorite so far. Like,
Okay.
It's really good. Yeah.
Okay. How do you guys feel about the ships crashing into the planet to stop the avalanche?
That was undoubtedly the biggest problem I had with the first episode.
It's absurd.
I went along with everything. I thought I'm really enjoying it. There's some good action sequences. The moment I kind of heard what they were going to do when they were kind of setting up, this is what we're going to do to save the colony. And I kind of just assumed that they were going to kind of fly in at a low angle and put the shields up, extend the shields,
right.
but literally just be kind of hovering, in the air to act as a barrier. And then they crashed friggin' nose first down into the dirt. It's like, what the hell? Who okayed this as a course of action that would be plausible?
Yeah,
and have you seen Generations at the end with the NC-1701D on Iridian 3? How that ended up?
That didn't work out.
Didn't go well.
This is the magic technology we're talking about here.
Yeah, there's a lot of magic technology.
Yeah. I was talking to R&B about this, and I'm like, "What do you think?" He goes, "It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life." I'm like, it's got to be something stupider than that, but it was pretty absurd. The low angle shield thing would have made way more sense to me. And it would have been a really cool maneuver where they would have had to have synced up in a way that matched. It would have been dangerous, but not deadly. Like this just looks deadly. So they must have really awesome shields in the future.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's the thing is even with the most awesome shields, I think it just physically and in terms of like structurally, that's just I don't know. It just did not work in any way for me. I think it would have been way cool, like because it actually looked like they screwed up somehow. Like it didn't look like, oh wow, they've saved the day, hooray! Yeah. It's more like, oh shit,
Oops, too fast.
Someone friggin' Detmer nosedived it down into the
Someone
dirt.
fat fingered the panel and then just smashed into the planet.
Someone's completely screwed up here. But seriously, I just thought they're going to come in, swoop in, and like whether they're going to come in and turn or just break and then extend the shields. I thought that would have been cool. But it was just.
You know what would have been cool? Imagine if they came in, they braked, pointed nose to nose, extended their shields, and took the brunt of the avalanche. It would have been an amazing shot. It would have required teamwork. But instead they just both smashed into the ground.
Well, so here it goes back to my does this mean something or not thing, because there's in the next episode or at the end of that one, Saru talks about how the sand, they're having trouble getting the sand off the ship and it has radiative properties. And I'm like, okay, so does that mean that they needed to have the sand on them, which is why they had to crash because it's going to come up later? Or are we never going to hear about it again?
I mean, with that logic, that's a good point. But like, they could have just made it so that Captain Raynor and Burnham got back to the ship and had sand in their bag or something,
Oh yeah, no, there's always a way around those things. Like, I mean, I have a lot of affection for Discovery, but you do just have to kind of keep filling in the gaps yourself with the science, with the tech, and sometimes with just the decisions, and definitely with rank and hierarchy and what people's jobs
Yeah,
are.
the rank and hierarchy don't always fit. Yeah, that's my problem. Like, I really want to. I'm a Star Trek fan through and through. Like, I love Star Trek, and I have a hard time with Discovery because I can't. It's very difficult to defend at times. Not there's been good episodes of Discovery. Let's be real, and there's cool characters in Discovery, but it's really hard to defend when other things like with Picard. When Picard season 1 was out, it started to get a little goofy at the end. And I remember defending it up until the very last episode. No, wait, there's a way that they're going to turn this and make this amazing thing. And, ultimately they didn't really do that. But at least I had hope up until the end. Discovery sometimes has things where it's like, well, that's just unexplainable. There's no way for me to explain that canonically. So I just have to disconnect my brain for that moment. And that's okay. I mean, that's entertainment in a way. And if people like it, that's great too. It's hard for me sometimes while I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying a sequence and I'm enjoying, a storyline, and then something happens where I can't explain it, and my brain starts doing this logic loop thing where I'm not even watching the rest of the episode. I'm trying to canonically explain something on screen, and I just can't, and it ruins the episode for me. Luckily, the ship thing was at the very end where I already had a good time the rest of the episode. So.
That avalanche. I was just going to say, also that avalanche seemed to last forever. Like, I would have thought an avalanche would have just sort of settled fairly close to the base of the mountain. Right. They seem to go on with a fairly sustained energy right up. And I mean, would you build a city quite close to the base of a mountain where there's potential risk? Maybe you haven't foreseen the photon torpedo aspect. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
But if there's a possible risk of some large volumes of earth going to fall on you, you wouldn't put a city that close to it. It's sort of asking for trouble. It's a bit like the example from the the colonists at the end of Strange New Worlds, building close to the not the Breen,
the Gorn.
Gorn, yes, exactly. It's do not do. Do not.
I had a problem with that too. Why are you guys so close to the Gorn space if Gorn is such a problem? It's I'm sure old cavemen back in the day didn't build their houses on Tyrannosaurus Rex nests.
Just asking for trouble,
You're asking for trouble.
I wonder sorry, Lou, you're going to say something before too. I kind of cut you off a bit.
Oh, I actually forgot because it was a while ago and I was enjoying what you guys were talking about.
What did you guys think of? I've had a few people say in the comment sections of my videos that the first episode should have been called sort of Star Wars Discovery rather than Star Trek Discovery, because of the the Tatooine like kind of location of Quamau and the speeder bikes and everything. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, but yes, there was certainly, some elements that were probably a little bit more leaning towards Star Wars than Star Trek in this first episode.
And a little Indiana Jones thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, I mean, the Indiana, obviously, definitely the Indiana Jones component came into it more definitely with with episode 2. It's Indiana Burnham and the Temple of the Promethean Necropolis.
Where's those snakes?
Saru, why'd it have to be snakes?
Yes.
That's really great.
But yeah,
I want a copy of that, please.
How long did it take you to do that, Nick? How long did it take you to do that?
Oh, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so.
Pretty great.
Yeah. But yeah, there's certainly been some borrowings from, both the Star Wars and Indiana Jones type franchises in these first couple of episodes. Yeah, I mean, and also I was going to say, what are we thinking? Just in terms of the first episode, how are we liking Mole and Lark as the antagonists for the season? Because they've obviously played a pretty big part in the first few episodes.
I like the actress.
How are we liking them?
I like the actress. I'm forgetting her name right now, but I've liked her in other things.
Eve Harlow.
Eve Harlow.
That's right. Yeah, she's actually pretty great. Especially as she was in a show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anyone see that?
Who was she in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
She was in the season where they went to the future, and they were on like the space station, but it wasn't a space station. It was it was the lighthouse in what remained of Earth.
I think that was the last season of that show I watched. I think I gave up on it after that season.
You know what? When they come back from the future, that series gets amazing because they start doing this thing where they travel to different periods of time, and it becomes almost a thematic thing every week. It's pretty great. But she was the character that they run into, and she sort of helps them navigate the future initially before she's spoiler alert, ultimately killed. But she was great. She was really great because you felt, well, in that episode, you felt like her upbringing is why she was so harsh, but she still had humanity in her. And I'm seeing the same thing here. I'm seeing a very similar character where we can see a turn for her where she becomes an ally instead of an enemy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously,
especially the link with Book, and I guess I was just going to say, especially the potential link with Book, and not a family connection. I think it's more of a association connection. But I think they make a really good couple. It's kind of like the Bonnie and Clyde in space. They clearly have a code. They're not just murderers or anything like that. They're kind of like lovable rogues in a sense, but they're very committed, and they'll do what they need to do to get the Muller at the end of the day. And I think they're definitely an interesting dynamic, and probably a bit of an offset to Book a little bit, in that sense, and maybe Burnham, I guess, in a bit of a context. But I guess it will pan out. We'll see how that goes.
I also think what's nice is that they're not mustache twirling villains, and a lot of the Star Treks, the live action Star Treks, love mustache twirling villains.
Right.
So it's nice that we're just seeing I feel like they're just going to get more and more complex. We're going to find out more about them. We don't even know his species or what's going on with him or how they got together. Like there's a whole lot there that I think could pay off really well.
I kind of feel like looking at his appearance. I almost look at his makeup and kind of see elements of different Star Trek races in his appearance. Like I feel like there's aspects of his forehead that sort of look maybe a little bit Ferengi-like. There's sort of aspects with his jawline or his eyes that, maybe, other Star Trek races. It seems like almost like a bit of a melting pot of sort of races we've seen before.
Are you getting a Star Trek Beyond vibe from him?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I am too.
That's what I kind of I think I did a video last year after we had some trailers where he did sort of seem like, because how we had Idris Elba's character in Star Trek Beyond, he went through kind of different stages of where he was very alien when we first saw him, but then as his treatment or whatever he was doing, because he was obviously sucking in different races to whether it was to extend his lifespan or whatever it was doing, I can't remember. But it was like, he was like, his appearance was sort of like a bit of everything. And then as it wore off, it kind of changed its look. And that's sort of what his makeup kind of reminded me a little bit of.
Bits of this, bits of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Indeed.
I'm just waiting for the Beastie Boys music to start playing.
Oh, right. Yeah. And what are we thinking about Rayna as our? I mean, obviously we had that episode in episode 2 where obviously Rayna starts off in the first episode being the captain of what's his starship called?
Antares.
Antares. Antares, and then literally within less than a day, he basically has a hearing. And he loses command of his ship. He gets bumped from captain down to commander, and then handballed off to Discovery. Like I kind of get that they wanted to have somebody fill the shoes of Saru because he went off to be ambassador. But it's sort of like, did his actions on Kumail in photon torpedoing the entrance to the tunnels that Molenbeek were about to enter to seal off their escape route, that didn't seem like it was kind of severe enough to warrant him losing his captaincy and being demoted. What did you guys think about that?
If Michael Burnham had done that and then she was demoted, she would have just stole the ship and took off. Yeah, I don't think it wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it warranted being demoted. And it almost felt like adding insult to injury. Like he's over here arguing with Michael Burnham, and they're like, "All right, we're going to demote you, and you are now Michael Burnham's lieutenant." I mean, it just felt. I know why they wanted to get him on Discovery, and to be fair, he's a great character, and from a fan perspective, cool. I'm glad you got him onto the ship, but there had to have been a better way to get him on that ship. You know, because it just, go ahead.
I do think that the point, I think what they're trying to, and I don't want to keep being like, well, here's what they're trying to do, because if they don't achieve it, it doesn't really matter that much what they're trying to do. But that said, they're right. Like they've said that he is having trouble adjusting to post-burn life. And they made it very political because it wasn't Starfleet that had the hearing. It was the Federation president who had the hearing. So that he's kind of caught up in this new, we have to shift our thinking. We have to be different from how we've been. He's caught up in it. And what happens with him and Michael is that she sees him. She doesn't want to turn him in. She sees his value, and she's the one who says, yeah, don't make him retire. He should be with me because I see something very valuable in him. And it's such a fun spin in terms of what you're used to seeing demographically in that relationship too. And he's such a great character, and I can't wait to see him interact with, every single person.
Yeah.
So I think he's a great addition, and he's a sort of energy that they really could use on that show. But just he doesn't have jerk energy because he's smart and funny, but he listens and he cares. So he has all that kind of blustery, and he's curt, and he is really funny, but he's not like one of those like intolerant, I'm not listening to anybody and I know what's better, because he totally pays attention and
I completely agree.
And considers what she says.
Which is why Tilly going off on him was unwarranted.
Oh no, I disagree.
You think that her lack of military decorum toward him was okay?
Well, there's no military decorum. Like
but there's a rank structure.
Like
she completely bypassed it.
But even she's the science advisor, so why is she doing this? And the reason she's doing this, and this is the scene I felt was missing from that, was like, we needed Burnham to say to her, I know you're here for science. I need you to step out of that and do something for me, because this guy needs to be turned around. And they didn't show us that, so we had
they didn't show us that.
They didn't show us that at all.
Yeah,
and I'm like, why is she suddenly the HR helper when she's supposed to be on loan specifically to do science?
Right, we needed more because we just saw
to...
Tilly stepping outside of her rank, and I don't think it was a good play.
Right.
If we had seen that setup, then you're right, completely different. But we didn't see that.
Right, like if Burnham had said like poke him a little, antagonize, that would have been great. But they didn't do it. But I still think it didn't bother me because that is sort of how the show has always been.
That's the way it rolls.
That's how it rolls. A little bit because the ranks and the positions. I mean, she was first officer for a while. Why? I love that character, but there's no way she should have been first officer.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah.
Like she was only she wasn't even was she even an ensign at that point when she was made first officer?
She was like she's terrific. Like I love her scenes. I think she's so smart and great. But first officer made no sense, and things did not go well.
Yeah, my favorite two characters in the first two seasons was her and Saru.
Yeah.
But I do think that they've misused that character going. Since then, they did a little better with the whole Starfleet Academy cadet thing. But I almost think that's like a backdoor pilot to like Starfleet Academy, right?
100% it is.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just coming back to, sorry, you go, Lou.
Sorry, just a quick note on that, which is like, if you look at all the interviews, like you ask, and we've done it at Trek Movie, like you ask all the actors, oh, would you like to be in Starfleet Academy? And they all go, oh, I'd love to. I hope so. No one's called. I hope it happens. And then Cinema Blend talked to Mary Wiseman, and she was like, don't get me in trouble, was basically her answer. So,
which is basically confirmation that she's
basically she's in it. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because yes, if you if you weren't in it, you couldn't get in trouble. So
right, no one else is worried about getting in trouble.
Yeah,
Trouble.
she should have
So
lied
you-
and been like, I hope they call me. Yeah.
Well, she
Yeah.
again, I get if she feels weird about totally lying, like that's it's an awkward position to be
Right.
in.
Yeah. But by saying
Just so-
nothing, you're saying everything.
Just circling back to Raina for a minute, I thought was it the what do you call it? The judgment, the hearing of convenience was a little
Tribunal?
bit tribunal of convenience. It was definitely a tribunal of convenience, and I think what was it? It was because they copied they got an idea from him because of his torpedo maneuver. I thought that was a bit stupid, but in terms of what Moland Lark did. But I think he's a wartime captain. He has a different, a completely different, experience level and management style, leadership style. And he did I guess when he sort of, he barbed off a bit in that hearing and sort of said, hey, we've got potential threats out there. I think the Tholians were mentioned, maybe not in that hearing, but the Tholians were mentioned. The Breen have definitely been hinted at a few times, and they're currently got some leadership issues which could turn around. And then the Orions, what was it? The
Orion Syndicate?
The Orion Syndicate, or their new name, I can't remember.
Emerald Chain.
Yeah. So this threat's still out there. It's not happy families. It's not necessarily peacetime yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how, I guess, they'll rely on Raynor to I guess, maybe protect against those threats or to be engaged in those threats. But also it'd be interesting to see his development in him, I guess, how would you say, relating to the new crew and maybe getting some of those soft skills a little bit and integrating a little bit and getting that communication sort of a little bit more aligned. And that, so yeah, but I think he's a great character, and a great actor. I'd like to see more of that. Yeah.
Speaking about the Breen before, David, I did kind of think the fact that they've name dropped the Breen in not only the first episode but also the third episode when they had the little Saru's first day on the job as ambassador or whatever. And to me, like from a writing perspective, it seems like you don't kind of just name drop races like willy-nilly like that if there's not, if you're not kind of trying to set something up. So I'd be surprised if we didn't see the Breen, at some point during the course of the season or something. It just sort of seemed a little bit to me like, are they trying to set this up? Are they trying to name drop the Breen in order to establish something within the current politics or status of the Alpha Quadrant or whatever, because this is going to come into the story later on? What do you guys think on that?
Yeah, they keep talking about the factions, the Breen factions. And they have mentioned it multiple times. So I do think it'll either be some invisible thing that we hear about the whole time, or we'll actually see it integrated into the story.
It'd also be interesting to see like how maybe what Mol and Luck do with the progenitor tech, if they ever get hold of it. Are they going to maybe sell that to the Breen perhaps as are they the buyers at the end of the story? I don't know. Right. That could be another thought. But also, would this also maybe set up maybe for future Academy? I don't know whether there's also a bit of a further thinking whether there is, they've alluded to a new enemy in Academy when that comes out eventually, but could it be a linkage to that? Don't know, but it's be interesting to see the Breen again. Maybe inside the suits this time would be good too.
Yeah, I've always thought if we were going to see the Breen, I've always thought based on the shapes of their helmets that they should look
Princess Leia.
Not like Princess Leia, but I always thought they should look like maybe polar bears or some sort of walruses, or because they're obviously meant to be from an incredibly cold planet. That they should have snouts, like a polar bear or a walrus or something like that, perhaps. That's always been my assumption.
What I want to see is a connection to, and I know we're not going to get this, but it would be nice if we did. A connection from the progenitors to the preservers from TOS. Like, let's get a full connection. Everyone's always assumed that they're the same thing. Let's actually connect those things on your way out, Discovery. Can you do me a favor and just canonically connect those two things? That'd be great.
Yeah, I agree.
Having Salome Jens though playing, I guess the progenitor in the chase, and of course the female changeling in the. I'm just wondering whether there could be a bit of a linkage there. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it be? Like, oh, we're really the founders, or we're linked in some way, because they probably would have. I don't know. The progenitors seem to have been like 4 billion or more years old or something. But the founders, I don't think, are that old. But just definitely a visual linkage there that looked interesting.
They look identical, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they saved the makeup, and then when she came back,
This fits well. Just get into it. No worries.
Maybe
it's all good.
Maybe that's where they went. Maybe that's where the preservers or whatever went. To the
right, like obviously they never planned to follow up on the chase, but they were like, we loved that makeup and that actress looked great in it. Let's come up with something else.
Yeah, I mean, even the costume, obviously was not that dissimilar, apart from switching from white to like a apricot-y kind of color for the changelings. But
yeah. What if they just all melted into the Great Link?
Yes.
Maybe the ultimate form of evolution for us is that we all just end up melting into one massive organism.
Back to being primordial goo.
Full circle.
Yes,
but also for the last 800 years, like that Romulan ship had been sort of like just sitting there in a junkyard. I'm really surprised that it hadn't been sort of ransacked to death. But also that the Federation sort of became, or scientists became aware of the technology potential during the Dominion War, I think it was mentioned. And you sort of think, oh, hello, that could be helpful. Just saying, rather than let's all have a cone of silence on this, or we'll keep that quiet. Don't mention that, and we'll just push that under the bed.
Yeah,
I found that rather strange.
Well, maybe because of the burn, nobody could get out there, and there were other things. And now it's the post-burn world, and so they're, I don't know, able to.
Yeah, but there's
more time on other things.
There's a lot of time. There's a lot of time between the Dominion War and the burn. That's probably what 500-600 years, or no,
a long
more
time.
than that.
Right.
That's probably It's like that's a lot of time.
You tried.
Good try, Laurie.
Nice
Good
work,
try.
We try to throw them a bone, and it's like the more you look at it, the more.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're watching, your brain picks up on something, and you're like, wait, let me explain this.
Right.
And none of the numbers are working.
Right.
And you get this logic loop, right?
They're beaming all over, but now suddenly they can't because of the rocks that they could beam when they were a few feet away from the rocks before. Right. And why is sand and rock always such a problem?
I mean, to be fair, like Voyager had that problem. TNG had that problem.
TOS did stuff like that too.
Yeah, they all had it. Yeah, it was always like story driven. Like, well, we don't want them to be able to beam out, so let's just call this cave a problem, right?
Even though we beamed in,
but now we can't beam out.
And like in that, that was the first thing I thought of, is because in order to try to get the puzzle piece or whatever, Booker's like site to site beaming all over the place, and the second they walk behind a rock, we can't beam anymore, like
because of this rock that we're still standing next to.
Just step out from behind the rock and you should be fine, because you've just been beaming all over the place.
And yet I'm watching that, I'm annoyed by that, and then I'm like, but this is a really fun scene, and I'm really like, this is what Discovery does to me, because I love the characters so much, and I'll really be enjoying something, and you have to go, hey, and then okay.
Wait a minute.
I mean, to be fair, Strange New Worlds drives me more crazy sometimes with some of that stuff.
Yeah, the dancing, the musical one. I know a lot of people love that. I know a lot of people love it. And you know what? It started off pretty great, but for me, I had a hard time making sense of that.
The science made no sense at all.
No sense.
But I loved the musical number so much that I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're like, okay, we can have fun with this, but like, none of this science is adding up at all.
Right. It made no sense, but it was fabulous.
Yeah. Brian, just admit it. You loved the Batleth boys, didn't you? You really loved the
Batleth boys.
Yeah.
The Klingons by far had the best number. I'll be real.
Yes.
By far. I was just
No,
waiting for like the K-pop sequence. You know what I mean? Like,
I have to confess, I do obsessively listen to that soundtrack a lot.
Yeah,
Just
that's
saying,
fine.
Yes.
it's not for
good.
everyone, but it sure
Yeah.
is 100% for me all the time.
there's
Yeah,
one
no,
thing I
it
want to
is-
say
it-
about
it
that
is
episode
very
where they
rude.
couldn't. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it is very re-listenable. I gotta say, I
Yes.
in the car driving around,
Yes.
on road trips and stuff, just
High
played the whole
rotation.
soundtrack right through. Yes.
So good.
Well, I'm gonna make you a mock CD album called the Batlers Boys.
Yeah.
I did in that episode where they couldn't beam in and out or whatever. I liked Wilson Cruz being able to play someone that wasn't Wilson Cruz. I'm sorry, that wasn't Hugh Gilbert. He was really great in that.
Oh, I in an interview, and I totally see this now. He said that his inspiration for playing Janal was. Do you guys remember Jack Palance's character in City Slickers? That sort of really gruff old kind of cowboy, the one that kind of is like takes Billy Crystal and Bruno Kirby and that around. Like he's like a gruff, hard as nails, old kind of cowboy character. Do you remember?
I don't remember the character, but I can see it. I can see what he's going for.
Yeah. And now that he mentioned, I think I totally see that. Yeah, but I thought that was good.
He did a phenomenal job. I thought, like, everything, he changed his voice, he changed the way he holds his body, he changed the way he walks. He really just threw himself into it and just did it's so nice to get him to see him get to do something like that, because he's so talented. And that was, it's a love. And he was having so much fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think anytime an actor gets to sort of, I guess when you're used to playing the same role day in, day out on a show for 5 seasons or whatever, I guess, it's a bit like those episodes of TNG where you got to see Brent Spiner really stretch his acting muscles in episodes like Brothers, where he got to play Data and Law and Dr. Sung, and I think it was the Masks episode where he had different entities or whatever inhabit his body, and he got to kind of just play all these different characters. I think they're always kind of entertaining, I think, just to see actors who are used to playing one character all the time, just to sort of stretch their acting chops a little bit.
And sometimes that can feel overbearing, like they did this so the actors can have fun. And then sometimes it really worked. I thought in this one it really worked. It was based on this Trill ritual that we'd already seen in Deep Space Nine, with some nice updates to it. That it was, and it's going to affect him obviously for a long time. So I thought it was a very, very good choice. And again, the right amount of lore, and now time has changed. There's been a lot of time, so some of it's changed, but not going so far into it that it's like crawling up its own butt.
Yeah.
That's a good expression.
Yes. Now, getting back to episode 2 with Indiana Burnham and Indiana Burnham and the Temple of the Promethean Necropolis. Obviously, there's a lot of borrowings in that one from Indiana Jones, and I thought the bit at the end of that episode when they had the poems and it sent Molenlark off to Beta Z, and then he goes, "Oh no, but we have to take back the 5th line of the poem, which sends us to Trill." It's like, to me, that was totally the headpiece to the staff of Ra, where the Nazis had the headpiece, and they had a staff that was too long, so they're digging in the wrong place because they had to take off, whatever it was to get the right height of the thing. That totally kind of seemed like it was right out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, that particular reference. Did that occur to you guys as well?
I didn't see the reference like that, but the whole scene, that whole episode, and especially with what was it called? The little drone things that came out of the eyes. I definitely got like an Indiana Jones reference. My only criticism of that episode is that they used I forgot what it was called, the video wall tech,
Yeah.
Where like I forgot what it's called.
The volume.
The volume wall. And you can really tell when they're overlooking the city, you can tell it's like the things in the foreground and the background, and this might be a nitpick because most people won't notice it, but things in the foreground and the background were like different color grades, and that definitely, I wanted to pause it and enjoy that scene, but it was just like so jarringly different. Sometimes that wall is good, sometimes it's too much.
They're still learning how to light it, and they're still learning how to use it. Like, they're probably ahead of the game in terms of a lot of other shows.
Right.
But every time they talk about it, they're like, every time we use it, we learn something else.
Yeah,
and I'm just happy that in a bunch of episodes, we're going places. Like, we're going to planets. There were so many Discovery episodes where they didn't go any, and Strange New Worlds too, where you're like, could you just go somewhere? And so they've gone to all these cool, fun places.
And what did you guys think about the reference to the Promelians or whatever that we saw from Booby Trap, the TNG episode of Booby Trap? So that was meant to be the same race as these guys from that episode.
I didn't even catch it at first. Like,
I didn't catch it either.
I didn't catch it all, and then we were doing our podcast, and we had Matt from the Shuttlepod podcast, and he caught it, and neither one of us did. And it was like, oh, that's really, again, great choice. Like, just something, if you don't know about it, it still works, and if you do know about it, it just adds a little bit more fun.
I like that a lot. Like, we don't need to introduce a whole lot of new races in this. We have so many races that we've already been sort of tangentially introduced to that we can utilize them, and that's smart. I remember in one of the Discovery seasons, we met another race that was like transporting people or something. I forgot exactly what it was, but there was a completely different race, and you have all these races that we've been introduced to for 70 years that you can call back to easily. So that was a good choice.
Especially ones that we don't know a lot about. Like, I don't want them to call back the ones we know everything about. Let's bring ones that were mentioned once or twice and then heighten those. Although I think they did a nice job with Andorians.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool with the Promelians, where they sort of, I guess, took that episode. Was it Booby Trap, I think? Where you get Promelian battle cruiser. Yes. And I mean, that was around, 1400 AD for us, I think. So, it's like, they're ancient now by, I guess, the 32nd century. And I thought it was the right sort of time frame. And it really was cool to sort of see the fact that they use these booby traps or these mines, I think, in the Booby Trap episode. And that they also had that sort of same level of, I guess, mentality for defending the necropolis, which very, again, aligned to Indiana Jones and the first movie where they're in the Aztec caves or whatever it was. So it was pretty cool where you've got that sort of, taking existing lore, enriching it, and it works quite well.
I originally thought it might have ended up being, do you guys remember the first season TNG episode, Arsenal of Freedom? Where they were on that jungle planet.
It had a lot of Arsenal vibes.
They had those drones kept coming out, and every time they destroyed one, it would upgrade and get more powerful. I actually thought is it going to turn out to be that planet because of the drones that were coming out of the statue? And I thought, maybe it was there, but it ended up still being a TNG reference, but just a different one. But I thought they had shades of that going on as well.
And we got to see Saru's very powerful quills, which can destroy drones.
And his speed runners. Well, we haven't seen him running.
It's been a while.
Was it season 1 last time we saw him running super fast like that?
I don't know how he can run in those shoes. I mean, seriously, that was just like impressive.
Well, he has a guy.
Run.
He has a guy who does it for him, but yeah.
I saw the behind the scenes shot of that, and what they do is they have a pickup truck with like a really long carpet attached to the back of it, and they have a guy like running along the carpet that's like the mat or whatever it is that's towed behind the back of this truck, so that they're running, and then the truck's going at I don't know, it seemed like it was going at least sort of 40 or 50 k's an hour or something, and then the guy's just running along this little like mat that's pulled along the back of this truck. I thought, that is like, how do they do that without, like, if you fell down, you'd be
you are in trouble.
You were in trouble. Yeah.
Right.
That seems super dangerous.
Yeah. That entire planet gave me Return of the Jedi vibes too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also liked how Raynor sort of came in, like to help Tilly and Adira out when they're on the clock, trying to sort of work out how they can defeat this Promelian tech.
Yep.
I keep wanting to say Promethean for Prometheus for some reason. I don't know. That also has some Prometheus vibes, that scene too. But yeah, just basically helping them work through the problem. So it's kind of like Tilly and Adira sort of looking at it from a fairly complex level, and he kind of sort of, you got that character in a remote situation to sort of just alter the thinking a little bit, and then hey, we came up with the EMP pulse, that old chestnut, to sort of knock out the tech, which is quite an interesting approach, just keeping it simple.
Right? Yeah, we could have defeated that in this century.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you didn't need 32nd century technology to defeat it. Yeah.
Right.
Which was his point. Like, that was a great scene because it showed what he can bring to the table.
100%.
Yeah.
Because he does think of things differently. This crew is so cohesive at this point that they need someone to come and just kind of jostle them out of their usual way of doing things.
Comfort zone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
And yeah, episode 3, Janal. This episode had a lot going on, I think, because we obviously had the stuff going on Trill with Culber and Burnham and Book and everything on the planet, but we also had the stuff going on with Saru and Tarina up on the planet with their the council meetings and engagement announcements and everything, as well as Tilly and Rayna's engaging banter and everything back up on the ship. So there was kind of a lot of back and forthing going on, which I think sort of kept the episode interesting. I did find it quite humorous, I suppose, the fact that my main criticism of Discovery over its run has been just how little we know the bridge crew on Discovery when compared with all the other iterations of Star Trek, and that the bridge crew most of them are glorified extras, and we literally don't know nothing about them. And Rayna comes in as first officer and essentially goes, right, I'm only going to give you 30 seconds each. Don't want to know about any of you. Just tell me one thing and then bugger off. It's like, to me, it was like, is this kind of like a holding a mirror up to what the writers and producers of Discovery, the way they kind of have treated the bridge crew? Rayna is doing exactly the same thing. Give them as little time as possible and know as little about them as possible.
I mean, if you want to talk about pacing, I thought it was a bit of a problem that they had so many stories, because they also had the Adira Gray thing, which was the weakest of the
that's right.
stories. And so there's to me, the big, the A and the B, I guess, the Trill stuff and then the Rayner stuff, despite why is Tilly doing that, was all really fun and engaging. And then I thought with Saru and Tarina, I really love them, but I don't care about somebody's engagement announcement, and the stakes were minimal. Who cares? And the stuff they were talking about in the council would have been a better focus to do the same thing they wanted to do with, he has to learn that he doesn't need to protect her, and that's the point of it, and he has to learn how to be in a relationship. But they picked the wrong thing to focus it on, because engagement, it's so, who cares? And then go ahead.
I was going to say, Laura, I was just wondering, I just wanted to maybe pitch this. Do you think there might be something that's going to come up between Tarina and Saru that might be, how would you say, they were sort of alluding to this fundamentalist group who might be opposed to the joining, and maybe something might serious happen between them or one of them? I was sort of getting a bit of a vibe like that. I just wondered, did you kind of pick that up? Because I didn't think it could be a red herring.
Right. It's another one of those, is it a thing or isn't it a thing? But either way, I just wouldn't have. Maybe just because I actually would love to see their wedding, because I'd love to see Navarians and Saru and whatever weirdness. But in terms of wedding planning, I'm not interested. I'm bored specifically by those kinds of things. So maybe it's my own prejudice getting in there. I mean,
the prejudice thing kind of struck me as slightly unusual, because the planet isn't Vulcan anymore. the Vulcans have reunified with the Romulans. They've even been as forward thinking as to completely change the name of the planet from Vulcan to Navarre to, essentially, allow Romulans to come back. So the planet obviously is now occupied by Romulans and Vulcans, yet they're still kind of got this antiquated, point of view about marriage and thinking. It's sort of like you guys are quite happy to change the name of your planet and let a whole different, a whole other race live there, but you don't want this going on. That sort of struck me as a little old fashioned or something.
Just like an engagement announcement, also old fashioned. Yeah,
Indeed.
I don't know if they're going somewhere with all of that or not, or how that's going to tie into the decisions he makes on the council and what is going on in the world, with them, where I would like to know some of those things. There were some great looking aliens in that scene. Looked fun.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the snake-headed guy on the left-hand side of that picture was the Soleil from that first season TNG episode Lonely Among Us, where we saw the Soleil, the snake-headed people have a bit of a fight with was it the dog-faced people or whatever they were? The Antikins, yeah.
Antikins, that's what it was.
Yeah. So that seemed like it's good. I think it's good that they're doing little, assuming that is in fact what the race that it was meant to be, but it's good that they're doing these little callbacks to as you were saying before, saying before, Brian, that the Star Trek universe is so full of different races that we've seen. Let's just see some of the guys that we've touched on but haven't really seen for a while, and it sort of was good to see that in this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. I'm
not sure who the guy on the right of frame there. I'm not quite sure what race he was. He sort of almost. He was. I think they do a lot of prosthetics and stuff for background aliens and so forth in Discovery, and then you sort of see them deposited in in different shots. I think I think there was I think they're using the same Ferengi makeup or whatever it is, as the bartender on Discovery. There was a Ferengi captain that kind of popped in. You see how they just there's these masks and they're just kind of reusing them in different background scenes or whatever from time to time. But I guess whatever works.
I'm expecting Darth Vader to sort of stroll in with Grand Moff Tarkin in that scene. I'm sort of getting a very Death Star vibe.
I wonder whether we're going to.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it was kind of a boring meeting. Like I was thinking, wow, you left your job on a crazy fun ship for this,
right?
Sad.
And the way that Saru sort of started selling it to Tarina, I thought he was going to say, "I'm staying on Discovery," because he said, if we hadn't have been there to do the things with the ship, those people in the settlement would have been completely killed. And the way his speech to her was kind of progressing, you kind of thought it was going in that same direction that, as Kirk said in, Generations or whatever, is while you're on the bridge of that starship, you can make a difference, you can help people, save people. And it kind of seemed like that was the direction that Saru was going in, talking about that event that had just happened and how they'd saved that colony of people in the settlement. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, but I want to get married, so I'm leaving that job and I'm coming to be ambassador on the Starbase with you." It sort of seemed like he was going one way, but then he kind of flipped at the end.
One thing that hasn't been mentioned either is 10C, species 10C. First of all, they don't seem to have a name still, I don't think, but there's been no mention of, I guess, what happened last season and what's happening in 10C land.
Is someone talking to them?
Maybe
I hated the 10C thing. So I honestly, as a fan, I'm glad they just don't mention it anymore. I did not like the 10C thing.
And I also think that aren't they out beyond the edge of the galaxy or whatever somewhere, and they've agreed not to blow up planets anymore or whatever they were doing. So
did they agree? I don't even know.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
We're out here, guys.
Yeah. I think they go, "Oh, yep, okay, we won't blow up planets anymore."
Sorry. Yeah.
So they're not gonna blow any more planets up. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have done the what is it? The Close Encounters. Boo, 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 boo. That would have been a great way of communicating with 10C with the blinking lights, I think.
I mean,
there was definitely a homage to that.
The other Discovery thing is like, remember Book had that necklace and it had like the substance from his planet that was in it. And I kept thinking, oh, that's how they're going to resurrect the planet somehow at the end, because the memory is stored and whatever. No.
Maybe they can use the progenitors technology with Book's little grain of sand to bring planet. Because remember, in the last episode, Stamets said the technology could be used to reanimate extinct life or whatever it is. So
he said organ. I think he said organs or something, maybe. But I agree. There you go. Like if they want to do it, they could. All the pieces are there.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
And obviously at the end of our last episode, we saw Mole come back or whatever as he disguised as a Trill a monk or whatever, and place this little, which I'm assuming is like some kind of tracking device of some description, onto Adira's uniform. I mean, they say. Where are the biofilters or whatever? What is it, like biofilters, or what are the things in the transporter that is meant to kind of meant to filter out foreign organisms and viruses and things that aren't meant to be there? Like you'd think the 32nd century versions of those would. I mean, that's that thing that was on her sleeve. That's like not like it's a microscopic thing. It's it's a spider. So right. Why isn't it picking up on it? Is that obviously Brian and Laurie? You guys have seen episode 4. Do they explain that in the episode? How it just happens to get through the biofilters of the transporter?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't. Not that I remember.
Right.
Yeah, it's a magic bug, like Laurie said.
I'm guessing it's kind of like for tracking or maybe even sabotage, but I'm just wondering whether it comes up a foul against the neutered Tribble, maybe, because that was sort of floating around in I think a couple of the first episodes with for some random reason.
The Tribble eats it.
Maybe,
because they love just throwing random Tribbles in there.
That's right.
That's like one of the things they do is they just go, here's a Tribble.
Yeah, my Tribbles.
Exactly.
Yes. I got to say, when I saw that in the first episode, I did think
there's a Tribble.
I did think,
I thought it was my wig.
What the hell is a Tribble doing just wandering the halls of Discovery? Like it was just, and everyone was just walking down the hallway, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a Tribble. It's like there's a bloody Tribble on the roof, and then it crawls along the roof, and then it falls down, then it scuttles off down the hallway. It's like surely this is like OH&S potential hazard or whatever when it decides to get into something that it shouldn't. But then at least we found out last episode that it was a neutered Tribble, which I suppose makes it a little bit better. I don't know.
Well, it makes it a lot better because otherwise you're going to have a lot of Tribbles.
Yes.
But no one can resist the Tribbles. Like they had them in Discovery season 1. They had the one in Picard. They can't resist the Tribbles.
Oh, we've lost Brian's video.
I'm back.
Oh, there we go.
Usually,
my wife had to grab something, and she wasn't appropriate. So.
Oh right, okay. What? She's just out of the shower or something?
Yeah, she literally came this way, and so I quickly hit the stop. She didn't even warn me. She walked right past. And I didn't want your stream to get demonetized, man. So.
Thank you for thinking of that.
Brian's left the chat.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry. I gotta
go. So in other Star Trek news, we found out recently. Obviously, the production has now wrapped on the Section 31 tele movie. We got some news about that recently to anchor that. It would appear in that lost era of Star Trek that kind of happens between end of Undiscovered Country and Encounter at Farpoint, which I think is probably one of the most untapped time periods of Star Trek. What do you guys think about the reveal that that's when our Section 31 movie is going to be set?
Do you think that's true? Like, I think they're going to be jumping time periods.
Yeah, so do I.
I don't think
I-
it's
I-
going to be set in one.
Just
time
said in
period.
that, yeah.
I think it's gonna be a lot like the last season of Agents of Shield. Sorry to bring that up again, but I think it's gonna be just like that. I think it is. I think it's gonna be exactly like that, where they are jumping through time periods and correcting mistakes along the way. That's what I think it's gonna. I think that's, and I have a lot of proof to that, what I can't actually talk about, but I believe that's what's gonna be like.
Yeah, I do. I think all signs have pointed to it for a while.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
like time cops.
Yeah. And the reveal that a young version of Captain Rachel Garrett, who was the
Yeah.
Enterprise C captain, does that excite you guys to hear that?
Very much.
No, I don't really care. But I'm glad. I'll be honest. It doesn't really do anything for me, but I'm glad it works for other people. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm
it's
actually
not
excited
bad.
about
It's not
that.
bad or good. It's just whatever. Sure.
I'm excited. I'd like to see that. So I was like, oh, that's a good one. And
Yeah.
again, someone we don't know a whole lot about. Like, don't set up a situation where you're going to clash with the canon that I've been living with for decades. But
Right.
you can expand it. You can do something that won't be a problem with it. And that
Right.
is fun. There's a lot of unexplored territory there.
My only problem is I wish that they would move the series forward in a way. And when I say forward, I'm not talking about like 1,000 years forward, but like move the series forward from Picard. You know, like continue our canonical journey forward. But we keep jumping around these different time periods. And, you know, the story that I started with when I was a kid is it just seemingly just turned off after a certain point, and we've been jumping around ever since.
Yeah. I mean,
David, you
Lower
wanna say?
Decks. Lower Decks continues it, maybe.
That's true. Lower Deck's the
Yeah.
closest thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I guess it's a standalone movie, so it's probably not going to materialize into it's probably just filling in a gap, I guess. And you know, there's probably in that era of it sort of covers the lost era novels and things. And if it was sort of around about the 2320s, I think that's when I think Nick, you even pointed out that sort of time frame. But if it jumps around, or it even maybe goes around that time frame, you've got things like the Tomid incident, you've got the occupation of Bajor, you know, you've got maybe even Captain Harriman, you know, if he's still flying in the 1701B. So you've got a few maybe potential things that could sort of come into the mix there. But you know, it'd be interesting just to see where that goes. But really good to see Michelle Yeoh back in the role. I think you know she's been a very divisive character in Discovery, and you know, I think the casting looks interesting for the Rachel Garrett character, and I think, you know, the actress, I think it was Trisha O'Neill, she did a good job in Yesterday's Enterprise, which I think is fondly remembered by a lot of fans, and she was a very interesting captain. She was very committed, and you know, having to go back into a situation where it was certain death to keep a timeline going. I mean, that says a lot about a character, I guess, and there's probably a lot to explore in that space.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I think actually just mentioned, I think seeing Alan Ruck back as Captain Harriman would be interesting. We know that Alan Ruck is obviously not. He's probably got freed up his schedule since Succession finished. So yeah, that would be interesting, because I think he was such a goofy kind of captain and seemed very green and inexperienced in Generations or whatever. So to be able to kind of see him as a little bit more confident, a little bit more seasoned, and, you know, settled into the role, I think would be an interesting thing to pick up on.
Maybe it's Giorgio who just messed with him so much that he became useless.
Yes.
Understandable.
She traumatized him.
Yeah.
Well, this is his origin story for being bad.
Yes, indeed. We've got. Do you reckon we'll get the Section 31, because they've wrapped production now? So obviously they're editing and obviously doing, you know, starting on the visual effects stuff and everything. Do you reckon we'll get the Section 31 movie by the end of this year, or do you reckon they'll hold it off to early 2025? What does everyone think about that?
I think early 2025.
I think they might try to squeeze it in late this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it'll definitely be around that. It'll either be late this year or early next. But I think late this year is a possibility.
I think technically it's a possibility, but I'm just thinking, because if you think about it, this year we've obviously got Discovery on an air at the moment. We're going to be getting season 2 of Prodigy on Netflix, probably maybe around middle of the year ish. And then we've got obviously the 5th and final season of Lower Decks, which we'll probably get around August or September. So we've got enough sort of Star Trek filling the airwaves this year. But next year, when you think about it, apart from season 3 of Strange New Worlds, there's no more Picard, there's no more Lower Decks. We're not going to get Star Trek Academy on air until 2026. So apart from season 3 of Strange New Worlds, there is no other Star Trek slated to go on air in 2025. So I'm thinking, are they going to kind of go, okay, we'll put this on air in the first quarter of 25 just so that we've got something, something else on? Because otherwise, what else is there going to be in 25 apart from season 3 of Strange New Worlds? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
By the way, Prodigy season 2 is out. Oui, monsieur. Yeah.
Oh, in Le Français, yes.
Indeed.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, indeed. Oui, oui.
Did they? I know that was all an accident or was a mistake or something as to.
No, I think it wasn't.
Communication, wasn't it? I thought there was a miscommunication between Netflix France and Netflix head office or something about when they were meant to drop it, and
I think it was part of a previous deal. This is what we were trying to uncover what happened. But I think what happened was it was a previous deal before they even made the Netflix deal or any of that. So it was still in place. And so so they actually legitimately aired it. I believe that is the case.
And as far as you know, it's still on Netflix France?
I believe it is. I think they didn't pull it because I think it was legit.
Okay, because I kind of assumed that there was a miscommunication in terms of when they were meant to launch it, and there was and they kind of dropped it earlier than they should have or something, and whether they had dropped it, it was on for a bit and then they had to pull it off, or whatever the case was.
Because obviously, like when it's not in the States, then they're making deals with other streamers and stuff, and so I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Was it's one of those things that kind of slipped through the cracks as the ownership shifted, and we've seen sometimes Paramount is doing something and it seems like they don't know what somebody else is doing. It gets a little confusing, so I believe that's what happened, because I know the Hagemans were trying to get to the bottom of it and came to that conclusion, like, oh, it looks like it wasn't a mistake, but please don't watch it there and please wait for it to come here.
Yeah. Have you heard anything, Laurie, about when Netflix is going to drop it in terms of the rest of the world?
Only weird hints that like May has seemed possible, but I'm not sure if they've already announced we're getting close to the end of April. Like they usually announce their next month's slate. I don't think they've announced May yet, but I think it's possible May. Like for some reason, Robert Picardo thought that, not that he would know, but seemed to think it was May. And then you're like, did he hear that or did he make it up? I don't know. But
okay,
it might be May, June-ish, but yeah.
That makes sense in terms of, because if we jump forward another 7 weeks or whatever, that I think when's our last episode of Discovery season 5 due to air? Because I think that's
mid.
Because what are we?
Maybe?
So hang on, let me just work this out. So next week is episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So end of May. So if our last episode of Discovery air, I mean, obviously Discovery's on Paramount Plus and everything, whereas Prodigy's on Netflix, but that would seem consistent that it obviously we'll wait for Discovery to finish and then shortly thereafter,
I don't know if it's going to wait. That's, as someone who has to do weekly reviews, I'm concerned that they're not going to wait because it's really hard to double up with that stuff. And I'm actually like away for the first week and a half of May. And so I feel like, it's all this shit's going to hit the fan. There's going to be so much to talk about. Although I love Prodigy, I'm so excited for it. I love it.
Episode 4 is next week.
Okay.
Yes, 4 is next week.
So 5, I think you're going to like 5.
Is 5 a bit of a cracker?
Yeah.
Is 5 the...
mirror one.
Is 5
Yeah.
the mirror one?
Yeah, and I've seen up to 6. I'm actually
I haven't.
saving.
I have them,
I'm
and I
saving
have
the
not
last 2
watched.
episodes to watch them with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah, I
watched
mean-
it because we record reviews every week, and I try to not have seen the next
Yeah.
one. So we're gonna record 4, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, I'd run and watch 5.
Yeah.
If
I
there's
think,
anything else
I'll-
on, I would have done that too. But there's nothing else on to watch. So
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I mean, like you guys, I got the screeners to watch early, but I think there's something about being able to, as I say, watch it as your audience is watching it,
Yeah.
and have that fun thing going on where you can go, oh, I wonder what this means. I wonder what that means, and kind of speculate, oh, what's coming up,
right,
rather than just kind of knowing it all, and then you sort of can't. You have to sort of feign ignorance or whatever,
right.
I
Right.
think part of the fun is kind of that speculative imagination. Is, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? Who's that guy? Is he going to turn out to be this or that, or where are they going with that bit plot point?
Yeah, for
That's-
us, like we were doing interviews with the cast, so we had to watch the first 4 before we spoke to all those people, which normally we never do. I never want to do a review because I don't want to fake speculate and I don't want to act like I don't know something that I know. So now we're back on track with that, but we are getting ahead again just to plan for my vacation.
Okay.
I was getting ahead because I was bored.
Yes.
And I'm with you.
I have no shortage of things to watch on TV. I was just saying I have like so many shows on my list that I am enjoying and watching, and in the middle of shows that finished years ago that I never watched, new shows that are on now. I feel like there's such a feast out there.
I'm watching old shows right now. I'm just waiting for something new to happen. I think I just watch too much TV.
Yeah,
It's
so
like my
do I.
favorite pastime,
Same.
And I'm in the middle of watching like old. I'm rewatching King of Queens. That's where I'm
Oh
at.
wow. Okay.
Well, I'm watching Boston Legal, The Librarians, Veep,
Yes.
all shows I've never seen.
Oh wow.
You've never seen Boston Legal or Librarians? Oh,
Or
I
Veep.
envy
I'm
you.
watching all these shows, and then I have 1 episode left of 3 Body Problem, and then there's like just so many, and then that silly Palm Royale I'm watching because I love Carol Burnett.
You're gonna
So
love
it's-
Boston Legal. That
Oh no,
is
it's so much fun. I'm only in
It's
season 1, but
such
it's
a-
so
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
So
Yeah.
great.
William Shatner and James Spader are
Yeah.
like
Perfection.
they
Yeah,
were
it's so
designed
well
to
written,
be
that
together.
show.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally
I-
agree.
I'm watching The Boys. I just finished watching
Oh, I
season
love
2 of
The
The
Boys.
Boys. Yeah, that is it's a great show.
I
Just
just
finished that.
finished another watch through of that, getting all the way to season 4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Great show. Yeah.
Yeah,
great
it's
show.
really
Yeah.
good. And I thought I would hate it because I just thought it was going to be too violent and whatever. And then from the very first episode, I was like, oh, no, this is fantastic. I'm going to
It's
love this.
extremely violent. Yes.
It
Yeah.
is, but in
I-
like a sort of comic booky way that makes it easier for me to watch
Mm.
Mm.
as someone who's sensitive to.
So you haven't gotten to Herogasm yet, I take
Oh
it.
no, I have. I've
Oh,
watched
okay.
all of it. I've watched
That
it all.
was a disturbing episode of television.
It's
You're
just
right.
so funny.
I gotta say, I did love that in
Disturbing.
season 2. There was a scene in season 2 where we had in one scene we had Boimler, in the obviously form of Jack Quaid, Captain
Scotty.
Freeman,
Oh.
Captain Freeman, because Dawn Lewis was in an episode, and obviously Carl Urban who plays Scotty in this. So there was like 3 Star Trek actors all in the one scene in that show. And it's like, oh, Boimler's talking
have-
to Captain Freeman, who's talking to Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, McCoy
Yeah.
and Scotty should
Yeah,
both turn up. So
yeah. Oh, yes, because of course,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Simon Pegg was in season
Yeah.
1. So again, that's right. So
yeah,
it's a fun show. It's a very fun show.
it's just so outrageous, but it's it defies all my rules of the things I like are just blown out the window for that show because it's so
yeah.
entertaining.
Now just to finish off today, we spoke about it very briefly before we hit the go button on the stream, but obviously at the start of the show, we announced obviously that Lower Decks will end with season 5. That show has been cancelled, and season 5 will be the last. Now, this obviously frees up a slot in the Star Trek shows. Brian, you said you from time to time touch base with Terry Matalas and so forth. Do we think there is any greater likelihood now that we know that that season 5 of Lower Decks is coming to an end? that frees up a spot in the Star Trek production schedule. Does this in any way, do we think, give us a glimmer of hope for Legacy, or is it just like, is it too late now for that show? What do we think?
I mean, it's possible we get a Legacy, but I don't think it'll be with Terry. So yeah, I guess we're freeing up a slot, and I guess that's the rule, right? You can only have so much Star Trek on at a time, or producing at a time. So that's interesting, but I don't think it'll be with Terry. So if we do it, if they do it, I think it'll be someone else, with that cast or a part of that cast, something like that. It might not even be called Star Trek Legacy. We don't know. Maybe it's called 7 and 9.
I think, two things. One, I'm not sure they want to do it without Terry, the cast. I think
maybe the cast doesn't. Yeah.
Right, because they really loved him and connected with him. And I think maybe the way to do it is not a series, but just one of those streaming movies, so that they can work out the schedule to get Terry and to get the whole cast. But
yeah, that's not really the way Terry works, though. Terry is he tells stories over time.
Yeah, I know.
Not in a 2-hour period. It takes time to develop his stories, and they're amazing. If you saw Picard season 3, if you ever saw, oh my God,
12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys, like that's one of the best time travel series I've ever seen. He's very good.
I'm halfway through that. I finished watching season 2 of that last year, so I haven't watched season 3 and 4 yet, but I plan to get to that pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to it.
And it was all written out. Like he had this Bible. There's actually a picture where he has this giant, huge monolith that he wrote every single plan on. It's like,
oh yeah, I've seen that.
If you ever notice in that picture, very top left, zoom in, you'll see the words USS Titan.
Right.
which wasn't a part of 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
So he was thinking about that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be like, yeah, you're right. That'd be cool if they just did like a.
Yeah, I mean,
like
and also, look, I do feel like some of the things that were kind of missing in season 3, the leaps you had to take were because we have the information. We know, like, he was rushed and they were rushed, and budget, they're doing one season after another. There were a lot of like practical elements that sort of led to some of the, I guess I would say, shortcuts they had to use in season 3, which I loved season 3, but it had some gaps. And so, I mean, I know that's Terry's thing, but I think he wants to do this. And if they say a movie, it'll feel like a movie. He would probably be, I think he really wants to do it. And if that's the only way to do it, and they have to use him, because I could totally see all those actors being like, yeah, nope, don't want to do it with someone else.
I do know that they were in the middle of talking for a while, then those talks went away. So I don't know.
Do you think all of the higher ups and everything at what's Alex Kurtzman's production company called again?
Secret Hideout.
Secret Hideout. Do you think the people at Secret Hideout and CBS and Paramount all love Terry Matalas like we do for what he did for Picard, or do you think there's an element of like resentment to how well Picard season 3 did and how much we all love it, that they go, oh, this guy just came in and everyone loves his stuff, and a bit of that sort of. Do you guys know the term tall poppy syndrome? Have you heard of that?
No. What's that?
Okay, so it must be an Australian expression. It's like it's a poppy. Obviously being a flower, there's an expression in Australia where if you're a tall poppy, so you're the flower that grows too tall, you get cut down, sort of thing. So you don't want to get too good and be too good at your job, because people will,
you stand out too much.
You stand out too much. People will be resentful of how successful you are, and therefore you'll end up getting sort of cut off at the knees, so to speak. Do you think there's an element of that, or
I know this
or not?
Because of contracts, they had to do a season 3. They literally couldn't not do a season 3. But there wasn't a giant budget for it in comparison to season 1 and season 2. So when they brought Terry on, Terry did manage to stay under budget. He managed to bring back more cast and crew and basically give us that last, farewell for TNG. And he did it in a way that didn't cost them the studio money, that fans loved. All that happened. But also, the studio wasn't paying attention when Terry made season 3.
Yeah.
They weren't. Like
True. Yeah.
all the people that would be in charge of him, that would be getting dailies, like they were out doing other things. So he just sort of had his like, hey, as long as you're under budget and you meet your deadlines and whatever. And I don't think they expected season 3 to be a hit. I think they expected it to fulfill contracts and to finish out that chapter. And instead, what they got was one of the best seasons of Star Trek in a very, 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 very long time. And people lost it and they wanted more. And now Kurtzman's like, well, wait, I have these other things I'm doing and I'm going to do those first. And I don't really care, you know, and Terry is young. He's not willing to wait around. He's not going to,
he's in demand too. He's very much in demand.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah, you have Amazon Studios, you have Disney, you have multiple people.
Marvel. Yeah. Like there's, you know, a lot
multiple
of
people are doing spec scripts with him right now. So I don't know.
So, and I also think part of it too is that Terry became a celebrity, because the one thing that like Paramount has never understood about Star Trek is that fans, we love the writers, we love the directors, we love the people who make it. And so Terry got elevated. You know, Terry's at conventions signing autographs at a table because everybody knows who he is and wants to talk to him, and he's engaged the fandom in a great way. I mean, the Hagemans are also like all very much engaging with the fandom all the time, and Aaron Waltke. But I do think there is some. I think Alex has plans and things he wants to do. You're right. Everybody was totally surprised, and I think there's been some. I'm guessing some issue with the cult of Terry, except that Terry's a great guy and like made this great season. So that's why people are so excited. And when fans would reach out, I mean, he was combing social media and responding to every criticism and everything. Like he entered that world, and some of those people don't really understand that world, even if though they're in charge of the franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe the way forward is just to do, I guess, a movie to, you know, not test the waters, but to affirm the waters, I guess, for all concerned, I guess. And then from that, maybe there can be some momentum to get a couple of seasons on the go. But you got to start somewhere, and I'd prefer to see a telly movie, even though it might not be the optimal method of storytelling for Terry. But it gets a target on the map. And then we can build and grow on that, you know?
Right. And if it's...
Get some momentum going.
And you can't argue with success. And Picard season 3 was a huge success. And it got people who didn't watch Star Trek were talking about Star Trek again. And that's the thing they're always trying to achieve, that they find the most elusive, which is how do we get the people who aren't going to watch everything no matter what it is? How do we get those people? And they can't figure it out with the movies. And so they were very surprised, I think. Especially because Picard season 2 was such a hot mess.
Right. It was pretty rough.
Understatement.
Yeah. It's
pretty rough.
I think we've come to the end of my list of talking points and everything. Is there any other news items or anything you guys can think of that we can touch on before wrapping up the end of the stream?
Not off the top of my head.
Laurie, why don't you tell us a bit about your podcast? You guys could give a quick plug to All Access Star Trek or whatever before we go.
Sure. It's me and Anthony Pascal, and it's called All Access Star Trek. We have new episodes every Friday morning. It goes up unless we're taking a week off. And we start with news every week, whatever's going on in the Star Trek world, everything from like the business Paramount stuff to products that are coming out, if we want to talk about them, and latest interviews with the shows. We do a lot of interviews also, writers, directors, actors, and then we review new episodes.
Great. And Brian, awesome. You guys on the podcast?
Yeah, we are going to be back this Thursday with Shane. Shane took a break, and we're finally coming back on Pop Culture Unleashed for this Thursday at 4:00 for the show. It's going to be a big one because I'm going to keep Shane there until he gets too tired to do streams again. I got to make sure I get plenty of clips out of him. Yes. And then we're also working on another big Definitive History. So that another big 1.5 hour long documentary that should be coming out at the end of this week if I can finish it. If not, then the following week.
Cool.
On the main channel.
Nice. Yep. Cool. No worries. Well, thanks guys so much for being part of the stream today. Appreciate your involvement and input.
It was fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks everybody for coming along today to listen to us talk about all things Star Trek. We'll be back again with another stream, probably in another 3 episodes time. I think I like to let about 3 episodes drop and then come back for the stream and chat about them. So I'm guessing our next stream will probably be after episodes, what are we up to, 4, 5, and 6. So after episode 6, before episode 7 will probably be the next stream, I'm guessing. So thanks everybody for coming along today, and I'll catch you guys very soon for my next video. We'll see you next time. Thanks.